Hello and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer, the board game review show that was recently asked, can you tell me what kind of a Frenchman Napoleon was? To which it replied, of course I can. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at Napoleon Returns 1815 from Worthington. In Napoleon Returns 1815, 2 to 3 players take on the roles of the iconic commanders during the Waterloo campaign of that year. You have, of course, 3 armies, the French under Napoleon, the Prussians under Blücher, and the British under Wellington. Now, the historical setup, you go ahead and you set your various corps in different places. Each player has a number of army corps. You also will have, in the case of the British, a reserve. You also have some cavalry corps, and you also have the commander blocks as well. These are little blocks that face the controlling player. And then they each correspond to a track on a kind of a player board that lists all the corps. Now the corps start at different levels, usually 1 to 10, but it can be lower than that. And that represents the corps cohesion, the ability of that corps to stay together, essentially your health value. Each corps is going to have some information, kind of a tactical rating as well as a starting card rating as well. Now, on the game board, each player will have a movement track. You'll also have a turn track and a weather track. The game takes place over 15 game turns, potentially. Now, at the beginning of the game, Napoleon has 5 possible objectives. 4 of them are cities: Antwerp, Brussels, Ghent, or Liège. And he may try to go for one of those, but then the 5th card is he may try to destroy 3 enemy corps. So he's going to randomly draw 2 of those cards, and those are his objectives for the game. And the Allies don't know what those objectives are, but Napoleon does. So the Allies are trying to cover kind of the whole area. They don't know quite what Napoleon is going to do. So they're a little spread out. Napoleon starts out very concentrated, so he's got the advantage at the beginning of the game. And at the beginning of every game round, a player rolls the die to determine weather. On a roll of 1 to 5, it's clear, there's no disadvantages. On a roll of 6, it's rainy. I'll explain exactly what that's going to mean a little bit later. Now, every army has a base movement allowance. In the case of Napoleon, he has 4 movement points as his base. He rolls a d3, and depending on where that lands, he can move potentially up to have 7 movement points that turn. Now, a player can move a corps 1 space and from 1 town to 1 town for 1 movement point. A commander can move up to 2 spaces, and it doesn't cost a movement point, and cavalry can move up to 2 spaces for just 1 movement point. Now, your infantry also have a advantage. They can go ahead and they can move 2, but if they move 2, you got to spend an extra movement point, and they have to lose 1 cohesion from their corps. So it's a forced march, and it costs them. So rain will prevent them from doing that forced march. It will only allow them to move 1 space. Now, rain will also be a -1 modifier to your die roll when you are rolling for your movement allowance that turn. So after Napoleon has gone, if any of his units end up in a space with any of the Allied units, a battle ensues. If not, you go on to the British and the Prussians. They go ahead, they each roll individually their movement for their armies and how many points they can move. They each have, I think, a base of 2, and potentially they can move up to 4. Then they go ahead and they move, and if they end up in any spaces with Napoleon, then the battle ensues. Battles in this game revolve around cards. So essentially, you're going to look at every corps you have, and if you have a commander there, and they're going to get a certain number of cards for each number that you have. Napoleon also has the Imperial Guard, which has a lot of cards. But you go ahead, you take all those cards, and that is your hand for the battle. Now, if an army attacks you and you're the defender, and the army has to cross a river, then you get another 2 cards. Now, how you actually play the battle is the attacker, he lays down a card. And these cards are things like an infantry attack, a cavalry charge, a battery assault. There are all sorts of different things, including a counterattack and kind of a combined arm. So there's all different things you can play. Well, you play that, and of course your enemy has to match that. And then if he successfully matches it, he can roll a die. And if he can look at his highest tactical level, so if he's got a commander, usually it's 2 or 3. A lot of his units, his corps, may just be 1 or 2. But his highest one, he rolls, and if he can roll that number or below it, then he gets initiative, and he gets to lay down the next card, and then the other side plays the defense. But this goes back and forth. If ever anybody plays a defender card, or plays, pardon me, a counterattack card, and that counterattack card is matched, then that person automatically gains the initiative. You don't have to roll off that turn. Now, you keep going a number of rounds. Now, at the end of the round that the one player cannot match the other player's card, the defender cannot match the other player's card, then the combat is over, and that player that couldn't match the card loses. You count up the number of rounds, and that number of rounds is the number of cohesion points that his corps have to lose. His corps have to lose a number of cohesion points equal to the number of rounds. And then, once he's done that, as he retreats, each corps that retreated has to lose an additional point. So you could pretty much take all of them on one corps, but if 2 corps have to go back, even that corps is going to lose a point on the retreat. Now the winner, he is going to do half that number rounded down, so whatever number they get from the battle, half that rounded down is what the winner is going to lose in cohesion points, because he takes losses during battles as well. Now, some of the cards you play, like a cavalry charge, may inflict more damage on you. I think a skirmish will be less damage. If you win with that card, that will modify some of the damage that is done on that combat round. Now, if ever one of your corps gets down to about the halfway point, that kind of diminishes the number of cards you get during battle. So ideally you want to keep your cards above that level, you keep your corps rather, its cohesion level above that halfway point, so that you can still get the maximum number of cards you can. Now also, if Napoleon occupies any of those objective cities, even if they're not part of his objectives, the Allies start to lose cohesion. So it behooves the Allies to try to keep him out of all of those objective cities. Now the game lasts 15 turns, or until the end of the game turn where Napoleon reaches his objective. If at the end of one complete game turn, meaning after the Allies have gone, if Napoleon holds 2 of his objectives, then he wins. However, if the Allies can go all the way to turn 15 without Napoleon winning, then the Allies win! Napoleon Returns, 1815. So Napoleon Returns, 1815. First of all, I'm a sucker for a good Napoleon game. I'm a sucker for the Waterloo campaign in particular. I got my PhD in World War II history, military history in World War II. One of my minor fields was Napoleonic warfare. And so I read a lot of books. In fact, the toughest classes I took, I think, were on Napoleonic warfare. Great classes, but tough. So I'm really fascinated with this. In one of my classes, I even wrote a big paper on the historiography of the Battle of Waterloo, and that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work, but it was pretty cool. So I really love games about Napoleonic warfare that are done well, and I really love games about the Battle of Waterloo. So I was interested in this. Now, I got to tell you, too, I think it was earlier this year, I played Freeman's Farm 1777 from Worthington, which is based on the American Revolutionary Battle. And that game intrigued me. When I saw it, I played it, and I fell in love with it. I absolutely love Freeman's Farm 1777. If you haven't played that, check it out. Great game. I actually did a couple of playthroughs on the channel. Really good game. So I like that, and I saw this on Board Game Geek, I think, and I was thinking to myself, okay, this looks like this could be fun, right? And light but fun, on the lighter side but fun. I fell in love with the production. Beautiful map, beautiful map. I love the wooden core with the the names of the writing on it. I think this game just looks beautiful. It's a simple game, simple board, simple cards, simple blocks, but it's a beautiful game to look at. I think I love looking at it. I played the game, and I played this a couple times now, and I played both sides. And it's funny because the first thing you have to say is there's a lot of luck in this game, right? There's luck with the card draws. There's some luck with the die and the movement points. There's a good amount of luck. So really what the game is first of all, it's a game of bluff and double bluff on the strategic level of where, if I'm Napoleon, where am I going to send my armies, and the Allies trying to guess, well, where is he coming? And so there's that aspect there, and then of course there's the bluff and double bluff of the card combat, which is going on. But really fundamentally, the game is about trying to maximize your cards for battle, trying to maximize the cards in battle. That's a very important aspect of the game, very important part of the game. So it's really a game about maneuver, and then there's a lot of chance in the card combat. But of course, von Clausewitz tells us war is the realm of chance, so I'm fine with that. Just know going into it, this is not a kind of I wouldn't say this is a deep, deep, deep strategic game. There is strategy here. There is, like I say, there's a lot of maneuvering. In fact, the last game I played, we were several game turns in before there was battle because everybody was just trying to maneuver into position and cover everything, and it was pretty interesting. Whereas I think the first game was first or second game round, there's a big battle, you know. So there's some variation here. There's some different strategies you can try. But there's a lot of luck. No denying it, there's a lot of luck in this game. But I got to tell you something. Even with that luck, I fell in love with this game. I have so much fun with it. It's just a good, quick, light Waterloo game that still has some real teeth to it, that still has some real chops to it. I've really had fun with this game on both sides. And there's different challenges. You know, where you're Napoleon, to keep your army concentrated and just try to bulldoze your way through there. But even if you got separate objectives, when are you going to have to kind of split your army apart? And then, of course, the other aspect here is for the Allies. Do we try to defend everything and then just get overwhelmed, or do we try to concentrate and then maybe he gets around us? So there's some good. There are good strategic decisions here. But this combat of matching and then rolling for the initiative, this is not new. We've seen this before. This was in Hannibal, which is a great game. It's in 1989, which is a great game. And I love it. I'm a sucker for this. I played, the original Hannibal like in the late 90s, and that was the best part of the game, is the combat and the matching. And I freaking love that system, and I love it here, and it works very well. I do have one criticism, a minor criticism, and that is the card backs for all of the combat cards, as well as the Napoleon objective cards, are all the same. I wish the Napoleon objective cards had different card backs just to keep them separated from the rest. Minor point, I wish they'd done that, but aside from that, man, I love this game. I have a lot of fun with it. I know I played with a friend, and he didn't like it. He thought the chance was too much, but pretty much everybody else I played with has enjoyed it. But they all say there's a lot of chance here, and there is, but it's fun. I really got a kick out of Napoleon Returns 1815, and I highly recommend it. If you're looking for a good kind of light to maybe medium-ish war game with just great components, easy to learn, easy to play, you will want to pick this one up. It's a fantastic game. Great one to set alongside Freeman's Farm, as I'm concerned. Very different games, but same kind of level of, I think, learning and complexity and fun. They're both fun games. Recommendation is 100% buy it. Thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Wargame Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. We are The Discriminating Gamer. And did you ever wonder why Napoleon conquered so much land? I think it was because he had nothing to lose. Town in France.
Please somebody help me on my feet again, and I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I'll be dying. Once a year I wind up in the band.
Let's start off with an infantry assault.
I'm going to go ahead and try to steal with first corps. Can I get it?
Next to